Texas has its fair share of severe weather, droughts, floods, tornadoes. But nothing matches a hurricane for its impact on people and sometimes on destiny.
In the late 19th century, hurricanes determined much of the history of the Texas Gulf Coast. This was especially true for two towns, Indianola and Galveston, both of which by the 1870s had emerged as important Texas seaports.
Indianola's rise was short-lived. Two hurricanes struck the town, one in 1875 and another in 1886. The town never recovered. Up the coast, Galveston continued to grow, competing with Houston for dominance on the coast. The rivalry didn't last long.
In September of 1900, one of the worst hurricanes ever to strike the Texas coast fell on Galveston. High winds, estimated in some cases as strong as 135 to 140 miles an hour, struck the island. Horrible devastation was worked by a 15-foot wall of water that struck the city. We don't know for sure how many people died in the great storm of 1900. Estimates range between 6,000 to 12,000. Most historians say, for reasons of convenient reckoning, that 8,000 people died on Galveston Island that September day. The 1900 hurricane at Galveston ranks today still as the worst natural disaster ever to strike in the United States.
Over the past century, many storms have come through the area. One of the worst was the most recent. On September 13, 2008, Hurricane Ike made landfall in Galveston, spreading destruction 120 miles in every direction. Hurricane Ike caused 195 deaths and $38 billion in damage. Two state parks were hit especially hard: Searim State Park and Galveston Island State Park.
Galveston Island and Searim both were turned inside out. Where I'm standing now was once part of our day use area. There were shelters behind me. Just everything at the park was literally destroyed. It was heartbreaking.
Even more heartbreaking was news of when the park might reopen.
Following Hurricane Ike, initial estimates were up to 7 years in getting the park back online. Volunteers were instrumental in bringing our park back together. Literally only 6 months after the storm, we had the bayside back open for public use.
Searim State Park was closed for 5 years after being hit by two hurricanes, but reopened in July of 2010.
We're back one more time. We're going to give it another shot, and we're going to be rebuilding the park. We're just starting right now in the planning stages, but we do have the park open to the public. We're going to do the best we can and build it better, but I don't think there's anything that's completely bulletproof to some of the storms that might come in.
We are going to be hit by a hurricane again at some point, and part of our role is to not only protect our resources, but we also want to be a steward of the taxpayers' investment. So moving forward, we want to develop facilities that are high quality, resistant to hurricanes, and when we do have another one blow through, we don't want to be totally wiped out where we're losing millions of dollars.
Damage to buildings and property was extensive. Wildlife habitat also suffered. The J.D. Murphy Wildlife Management Area near Port Arthur was no exception.
We lost approximately 800 acres of emergent marsh on the Murphy area alone as a result of the surge and scour impacts of that hurricane. Shortly thereafter, our coastal fisheries folks in Dickinson were successful in getting a grant for $1.5 million for habitat restoration on the Murphy area. We'll be working in the Salt Bayou unit. It's where most of our tidal wetland loss have occurred. We've been able to take on a benefactor in an industrial neighbor who has a bounty of dredge material soils that they need a place to put. And in working together, we've found a source of materials that's virtually free to the people of the state.
These dredged soils are the foundation for a new emergent marsh.
The end of our project, we're projecting somewhere between 1,200 and 1,500 acres of restored impacts.
Hurricane Ike also impacted wildlife, especially alligators. Since the storm, their population is recovering.
This year's been really, really good, compared to last year. In this particular area here, 640 acres, we had 0 nests. This year we got 62, so it's getting back to normal. We expect next year to be back to normal.
One unseen casualty of Hurricane Ike was underwater. The oyster reefs of Galveston Bay, which normally provide 70 to 80% of the oysters marketed in Texas. They are an important commercial fishery and an integral part of the ecosystem. Oysters are filter feeders, and a single oyster can cleanse 50 gallons of water a day. After Hurricane Ike, 60% of the oysters in the bay were lost. In East Bay, 80% were destroyed. It's here where efforts to restore the reefs are underway.
After Hurricane Ike, there was a whole sediment layer and mud layer that was just put on all these reefs out here. And so by bringing back some material, then hopefully we can get it back to the way it once was.
Tons of river rock will serve as the foundation for the restoration of this reef.
When oysters spawn, their larvae will attach to this. This we found is very good material for that. We're putting down about 20 acres out in this site. We put it down about 5 inches of material on the bay bottom.
The latest in sonar technology will help biologists monitor the progress of restoration sites.
The bay's never been mapped with side-scan sonar before, so this will be a new and very powerful tool for assessing the condition of the oyster reefs and perhaps other habitats in the bay. We plan to use it to collect baseline information on how much oyster reef is out there and what sort of condition it's in.
This is the image of the bay bottom that we're going over right now. On the port side, there's not much reef at all, oyster reef, but on the starboard side, this is all oyster reef. You can see it kind of coming in through there as well.
The reefs are still vulnerable, like everything on the Gulf Coast, as Hurricane Ike reminded us.
There is a greater awareness, and there's an urgency to pay more attention to what's going on in the coast. And there's been a significant amount of understanding shared to come together and be able to face the next storm, whenever it comes, if it comes in 2 years or 40 years. It'll come. We live on the Gulf Coast.